Hi, I'm Marty Cohn, and this is BCTV's Meet the Candidates 2020, sponsored in part by Brattleboro Savings and Loan. This series affords you an opportunity to hear from folks running for elected office. Today, our guest is Peter Becker, the candidate for U.S. House of Representatives. Welcome, Mr. Becker.
Thank you, Marty, and thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's delve right into these questions so people will get to know you better. First question: why are you seeking this office?
Well, I don't like the way things are going, and I think other people don't like the way things are going either. I'm running as an independent because I'm not thrilled with either party or the party system, period. As long as we have partisan politicians, we are never going to end the divisiveness or solve problems in an efficient and productive way. Well, for example, Congressman Welch, he wasted at least 6 months focusing on impeaching the President of the United States with evidence that ultimately was false. But Congressman Welch has never apologized for wasting all that time and money when he could have used to help Vermonters. It was all the reasons he had for doing that were purely partisan, and we need to move away from that. We need to focus on issues and getting things done.
All right. So, what sets you apart from the other folks seeking this office?
Well, I think my diverse experience and background gives me the ability to relate to just about and empathize with just about any Vermonter. You know, I've had blue collar jobs, I've had white collar jobs, I've worked in the public sector, I've worked in the private sector, and I've owned a business, and I think I also have the academic credentials and the government experience to be prepared to do the job in Congress.
All right, so if you're elected, what are your top two priorities? Top two.
Is that all? Okay.
That's it. You only get two.
Well, I think number one is getting Vermont and the nation back to a better normal and making sure something like this never happens again. I mean, I think we can all agree that this COVID-19 pandemic has been a catastrophe at a number of levels. And, you know, we for some reason, we're not handling it the same way as other pandemics in the past. I mean, every year we have a pandemic or more than one. And, you know, over the years, we supposedly had procedures and protocols that were in place that were mostly coordinated by the CDC. This year, that was all thrown out for some reason. And it seems a little strange that has happened. You know, why did that happen? Why aren't we handling this the same as we've handled every pandemic in the past? Instead, this year, the politicians and the health authorities have made us stay at home, wear masks, keep our distance. And it just seems we've gotten, like I said, we've gotten mixed signals. A few months ago, wearing a mask was a bad thing. Now it's mandatory. The whole thing has been run poorly, and it doesn't make any sense. And I want to do something, pass legislation, whatever, to make sure that we don't have a repeat of this. The other issue that's important to me is eliminating the invasive and unfair federal income tax. You know, the founding fathers never intended for us to have an income tax because they knew it would become a huge bureaucracy, be a huge burden on the population, and it would essentially be used by politicians to punish their enemies and reward their friends. And that's why we have all these tax credits and loopholes, and it's simply not fair. If we replaced it with some sort of flat rate sales tax, there would be no loopholes. When the millionaire goes out to buy his Rolls Royce, he'd pay 6%, what, 6% of $1 million is a lot more than 6% on a Ford Fiesta. And every year we're essentially turned into indentured servants to the government. We're made to fill out tax returns. We're made to send them in. And, it's not something that's simple either. The tax laws and regulations are so complicated, the average person, can't fathom them. They can't deal with it. I mean, it's written in legalese and in accounting terms. The average person isn't an accountant or a lawyer. And so we have to go out and spend money to get this done for us. It's created a multi-billion-dollar business. That's totally unnecessary. If we had a sales tax, we wouldn't be filling out anything and we wouldn't be spending any money. And it's something that's bothered me for years. And if I get into Congress, I'd like to do something about that, eliminating the income tax.
Okay. Well, I'd like to turn to some Vermont issues.
Okay.
If you're elected, what would you do to ensure that more Vermont families with young children can find and afford childcare?
Well, I think it's become hard to find and unaffordable in many cases because of the government. I think the government has overregulated that industry, and a lot of people that were in the business have gotten out of the business out of the daycare business, and I think it's discouraged people from getting into that business to become daycare providers because of all the regulation. Of course, we want our children to be safe, but when they're regulating, the number of, I don't know, wipes that are in a place, or what kind of foods they eat, or what they drink, and things like that, it gets to the point where it's just too much for these daycare providers to deal with. And so I think we need to back off on some of those laws and regulations to make it easier to be in business, which will ultimately make it more affordable. But I also think there's something else too. I think we need to recreate a culture that we used to have in this country where, parents and families take care of their children and take care of their elders too. For some reason in the West, we've reached a point where we're having other people take care of our children, and we're putting our elders in homes. In other parts of the world, there's people still take care of their own families, and I think we need to move back in that direction. Every child has two parents, or grandparents, umpteen uncles, aunts, whatever. It seems, we ought to be able, out of that group, be able to take care of our children.
All right. Well, now I'm going to touch on the other end of that age spectrum. You kind of hinted at it in terms of recent reports that had indicated that seniors in Vermont face one of the highest rates of financial insecurity in the nation. How do you think we can make life for seniors more affordable?
Well, number one, I think we should stop taxing Social Security income. Vermont is one of 12 states left that still taxes Social Security income. And we need to stop doing that. That income was already taxed once when those people made that income. And it's totally unfair to tax it again now that they're retired and need that Social Security. The other thing I would do is try to lower Vermont's high cost of living. Vermont is one of the most expensive places in the country to live. I think everybody knows that. And it is that way for a number of reasons. Taxes are one of them, but there's other things too, like utilities. The cost of electricity in the state, I think, is more than it should be. We have essentially one company that has monopoly over most of the electrical power in this state. And in my opinion, I believe they're badly managed. They've been, since they are a monopoly, the customer can't go to the power company across the street. Lack of competition is not a good thing. I grew up in a village where the cost of electricity to this day is 1/3 what the average bill, Green Mountain Power bill is. And if other places can do it, we can do it too. I mean, even if we have to municipalize electrical power, we have a lot of hydroelectric potential in the state. And like I says, in my opinion, cost of electricity would be much lower than it is. There's other things too. Natural gas. There's a lot of people that don't want natural gas to come to the rest of Vermont. But natural gas is a cheap and plentiful form of fuel for heating and cooking. I believe it should be done right, that pipelines should be in places that are not invasive. And but until we find a more viable source of power, I think we should try to use natural gas also. And finally, a lot of people talk about lowering the cost of prescription drugs. I think we can do that by making it more competitive. It's not competitive enough, and I think it's overregulated to the point where it can't be competitive. So I think we should try to do everything we can to make it more competitive and get those costs down. Okay.
So now I'd like you to think about the post-COVID world. We are going to emerge from this. What is your vision for Vermont in a post-COVID world?
Well, I touched on it earlier. I think we need to make sure the unnecessary destruction of our economy and what I feel is unconstitutional mandatory business closings, distancing, and masking never happen again. We just got to handle these things in a different and better way, and maybe handle them the way we used to. And I think we need to make the people that have caused this destruction accountable, whether they need to be punished or make them pay for it. This has been devastating. I mean, there's hundreds of businesses just in this state that have gone out of business. And think of the misery of those people, trying to keep things together, keeping their employees, working, and it has caused a lot of misery. And we can't repeat this. And so we need to do something about that.
All right. Well, my final question for you is, what do you want voters to know about you?
Well, I'd like them to know I'm not a politician. I think it's pretty clear from my experience doing things like this. And I have no tolerance for partisan politics because I feel it's destructive. It's divisive. There's essentially two groups that are fighting all the time, and it just creates gridlock. And I'd like to see that. I mean, the two parties will probably be around forever, but it'd be nice to have either a third party or a large number of independents, and to eliminate this partisanship. And the last thing, I just want to let people know that I think voting for me is like voting for themselves, their families, Vermont, and America.
Okay, Peter Becker, independent candidate for U.S. House of Representatives. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Marty. I appreciate it.
Okay, well, you can learn more by visiting his campaign website, beckerforcongress2020.com. That's beckerforcongress2020.com. The general election is Tuesday, November 3rd. Remember, you could vote early in person, you could vote absentee by mail, or vote absentee hand-delivered on Election Day. Whichever way works for you, please vote. Thanks for watching Meet the Candidates 2020, sponsored in part by Brattleboro Savings and Loan. I'm Marty Cohn. Stay healthy.